Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network.
'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven.
A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at ubnradio.com.
Thank you for listening to the National Safe.
Welcome to the National Safe Child Show, addressing the health, safety, and welfare of all children nationwide, because it shouldn't hurt to be a child. Here is your host, Tammy Stefano.
Hi folks, welcome to the National Safe Child Show. I hope everybody had a beautiful Thanksgiving. I've been away for a couple of weeks. I'd like to take a moment to dedicate this show to my lovely father, who I informed my audience that he had taken ill. He has been ill, and he took a turn for the worse, unfortunately. And he doesn't have too much longer on this, too much more of a journey in this world, but I'm sure that I'll see him in the next. So I just want to tell my dad, I love you so much, Dad. I know, we can speak to each other heart to heart, as many parents who are separated from their children and vice versa learn to speak to the ones that they love the most with their heart, with their energy. And it's real, and I believe in it, and it's powerful, and the other person can hear. So I know my dad hears me right now. And that said, I hope that you folks can hear me, because my sound is going in and out, John. Okay, it's it's on, off, on, off. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Yeah, it's going in and out. I thought.
Shows that make you laugh. Shows that make you think. Music that moves you. It could only be one place. Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Hi, folks. Okay, sorry for the interruption. I just had to change headphones. Okay, we are back with the National Safe Child Show, live from the Universal Broadcasting Network here in Hollywood, California. And to all the folks out there who may be listening, you can sign on to the internet at www.ubn, like Universal Broadcasting Network, radio, UBN radio, one word, .com. When you get on the site, go to channel 2, and you can see us live. We have a chat room here. You can sign into the chat room and join in on the conversation. This is an important show, folks. And it's important that we continue to be a voice for the systemic failures, and be a voice for the victories. I don't want to have it be all dark because there's some great victories, and they're important to voice. We would love to have every show be victorious and stories about the beauty and the light and the unity of families. Hopefully one day it will be that way, and I'd like to continue the show with lots of laughter and lots of great stories. Okay, without further delay, we have a guest coming on. We have a couple parents who are from Houston, or their case, I should say, Child Protective Services case, CPS case, out of Houston, Texas. These folks hadn't lived in Houston, Texas for too long, and we're going to hear about how Houston has sunk their teeth. I mean, I'm just going to say it. Sunk their teeth into this family's bones and held them hostage, and they won't let them go, even though I've looked into this. Houston has no legal jurisdiction to hold this case. So, without further ado, do I have you folks on the line?
Yes.
Well, hello.
Hello, Sandy.
Hello. Okay, so
This is Ahmed.
hi, Ahmed. I want to introduce these two lovely parents. Ahmed, and do you want to be called Kathy? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to introduce these parents, Ahmed and Kathy, two wonderful parents who don't have allegations of abuse. As a matter of fact, Mom, if you could tell us about your educational background, just briefly, if you don't mind.
Yes, I have a PhD in education. I'm a Texas certified special education teacher, Texas certified principal, and also a CPS approved daycare director.
Wow. Okay. You have your PhD, don't you?
Correct.
Rumor had it that you were actually working on a second PhD. Is that right or wrong?
Correct.
Wow. Okay. Hold on one moment, Kathy. John, just to let you know, there's nothing on the screen. Okay. Okay. But the show must continue because this is important stuff. Kathy and Ahmed, you're in Texas right now, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You are the parents of how many children?
Three.
3 children.
2 girls. Yes.
2 girls and 1 boy.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Speak up. If you could put your volume up, that would be great. I want the folks to be able to hear nice and clear. And the ages of your children?
The 3 and then 2, because our fourth child is 3 years old. Her name is Jamila Giwa. Then the twins, they are 2-year-old.
Okay, one more time because it wasn't clear.
Our first child, she's 3 years old.
Your first child, your oldest child?
Yes, she's 3 years old.
Okay.
Then the twins are 2 years old.
And then you have 2 twins, 2 years old.
Yes.
A boy
Yes,
and a girl.
correct. A boy and a girl, correct.
Okay. And Ahmed, you were here in the States. Tell us about your background. What do you do for a living by trade?
Yeah, I'm an IT consultant. I work for energy company here in Houston, Texas.
Okay. So you're very, very computer savvy.
Yes, I have master's in computer science and I have my MBA as well.
Wow. Incredible. So we have 2 highly educated parents, young children. Let me ask the 2 of you, let's just get this off of the table right now. Have you ever been so frustrated that you just wanted to beat your child?
Never. Never.
ever thought about beating him where you went and locked yourself in a bathroom?
Never.
Did you ever give your child a shot of whiskey because you just couldn't handle them anymore and you were hoping to put them to sleep?
Never. We don't drink.
You
We
don't drink.
alcohol.
You don't drink alcohol. So,
Yes, ma'am.
do you go out partying? You do drugs?
No, never.
Never.
Never. Any criminal background? Did you ever rob a bank? Did you ever, hold somebody up? Anything?
Never. No.
Except CPS got us locked up for interfering with child custody. That's the only criminal background. But it was a warning.
Wait a minute. Say that again. I'm sorry, Kathy.
We don't have a criminal background, but CPS told the police, told the Texas Rangers to arrest us on interfering with child custody. And but we have that as a warning under a criminal background now.
Okay. All right. We'll go to that in a moment. But before CPS ever came into your lives, before the thorn was inserted in your sides, like the spikes of corn on the cob, and it just holds you. Did you have a criminal background before?
No.
None. Were you happy people?
Yeah.
Yes.
And making a family, obviously. And going forward and continuing with your education and building a life and good foundation for your children, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But something happened. A nightmare is what I hear people say. Parents best describe it as a nightmare that they just can't wake up from. Could you say that you feel like you're in a nightmare?
Definitely.
Definitely. Why don't we start off at the beginning without getting into a lot of detail, just a brief synopsis. You have your children. You, Kathy, were in England, correct?
Correct.
All right. Why don't you tell the audience your nationality, your citizenship? Where are you? Not your nationality. Where are you citizens of? Are you U.S. citizens?
We're U.S. citizens and also Nigerian citizens. We have dual nationalities.
So you have dual nationality, dual citizenship. Okay.
Correct.
You were in England at the time. And
correct.
Yes, you had some problems with a pediatrician. It seems to be, from what I've looked at in other media coverages. I mean, I haven't had a lot of chance to speak with you, Kathy, and correct me if I'm wrong, or don't correct me at all. But it sounds like from Fox News and Medical Kidnap and a few other media platforms, that you were really bullied by a medical professional who didn't like the fact that you were questioning, and not even questioning him, but questioning the procedures that were being suggested. Why? Because this is your child and you have a right to.
Correct.
Tell me about that.
Well, we'd seen this pediatrician who was concerned because I questioned about the side effects of the MRI.
Okay.
And I was told that the main problem would be putting the baby to sleep, and they couldn't guarantee he was going to wake up. And I questioned, will the result have any impact on the current therapy? And he said no. So I suggested.
So the doctor, wait a minute, just to be clear, the doctor wanted to do an MRI, and you were not against it, but you wanted to know. Actually, you told me that the doctor said, along with the MRI, because your son, this was for your twin son, correct?
Correct.
Because your son was so young, I think he was 14, 15 months old, and he would move a lot because, of course, at that age, they're not going to be obedient. They want to move around and shake around, and especially being in an MRI type of capsule. So the pediatrician told you that they would have to give him some type of anesthetic. And this anesthetic could cause potential, if not fatal, consequences.
Correct.
Was it a necessity? Did you have were you folks in a car accident? Did your child fall down the stairs? Did something happen?
Nothing of that sort.
Nothing. Okay, so was it necessary? Could an MRI have been avoided?
Definitely, because when we went 2 times to their doctor to have it done, their doctors didn't see the urgency or necessity, which is why it wasn't done in England, period.
Okay. When you questioned the doctor, did you eventually change doctors?
When we moved, we had to go to a new doctor local to where we were at the time.
Okay. Let me ask you, at any point during your visits with your child and the first doctor, the doctor who just had such a big ego that he felt like nobody could question him because he was a quasi type of god, and, you know, after all, it doesn't really matter whose child it is. When a child comes into his office, he maintains control, as some doctors feel that they have that right to do. And if you disobey them, why, they just pick up the phone and call Child Protective Services, give you a smirk, and then tell you to kindly say goodbye to your child because you've just lost them. When you had one of your last meetings with this doctor, isn't it true that CPS was somewhere lurking, actually hiding somewhere in the vicinity of hearing, and you were being questioned by the doctor and a little bit assertively?
Correct.
Tell us about that.
We they invited us to bring all the children, even though we were talking about one child.
Okay.
And so she started trying to be smart, talking about needing to do a brain scan. And I said, "Do you mean an MRI?" And she said, "Yes." Well, I didn't know that the CPS was waiting by the door because she'd expected me to argue because I told them that I questioned the initial doctor.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that was how that went. And they did all the blood work. They couldn't find anything wrong with the child.
Okay.
Yes, and so she told us to go home because I didn't argue. But then the next day when I called to tell her we didn't want her services anymore, she told her CPS to come and get the kid.
So because you questioned the doctor, you didn't want the doctor's services anymore, and you made an educated decision, and you're right to do so with your child, to seek other medical opinion, but that doctor just didn't like it.
Correct.
And but you didn't argue. The doctor expected you to argue, and it seems to be, and I'm just alleging this because I wasn't there, that it was kind of a scene that was preset to entrap you, but you know, powers of the universe, you didn't fall into the trap. And as much as they were pushing you to agitate you and to get you to act assertively, you actually didn't, right?
Exactly.
But you later came to understand that CPS was hiding behind the door, or behind the curtain number 1.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, but they couldn't do anything because you told the doctor, hey, listen, you're the doctor and I'm just a parent, more or less.
Correct.
And God bless you. That was very wise. You ended up seeing an alternate doctor, but in the interim of all of this, CPS was inserted in your life. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. So tell us about that.
So, well, the CPS started coming, and they said they wanted us to do an MRI again, and we said okay. But every time they took us to the hospital, the receiving doctors didn't agree with them that there was an urgent need for an MRI because it's a developmental delay, and they have more pressing cases.
So
So
they
when it was
wanted to do an MRI just to see if a 14-month-old had any developmental delays.
basically they were fishing, were hoping they could find a reason to hold the kid.
Sounds to me like they were looking for mom to argue so they could take a nice, beautiful young boy who could be adopted out, fast-tracked.
Correct.
That's what it sounds like. I mean, I'm not alleging anything. I'm just, the presumption is, folks, if it smells like a fish and it swims in the water and it's got some fins, it's probably a fish. Yeah. So, okay. You didn't argue with them. You were able to keep your children, correct?
For a while.
For a while. At that time, you were
A
able.
short one.
Okay. But at that time, you were able to keep your children. All
Correct.
3 children. You didn't fall into the trap. You came to the
Correct.
States, correct? Because your husband was here doing work. And
Yes.
you're in England at the time. There was
Correct.
nothing that they could do to detain your children. You had done nothing wrong. You didn't fall into the trap of arguing with these villains. And you got on the plane with your kids like a normal person and parent could do. And you came to the States, Texas.
Well, they actually took us to court,
Okay.
but at the court, we won because we were able to show all the evidence, and the
Okay.
judge was about to rule against them, so they requested to withdraw the case.
So
And
right
that's how we
during the hearing, when you presented your argument and your evidence, and the judge saw through it. Sounds like this was a good judge, and
Correct.
the judge is ready to say, "What the heck are you doing, CPS? You have nothing here.
And
What have you done?"
She said it. She said it.
She said it.
hmm
What did she say? Do you recall?
She said, I'm not going to hold this family. I'm not going to hold them back from returning home.
Okay.
If you really do have concerns, you could contact the local Child Protective Services and see if they agree with you.
Wow. And at that point, somebody stood up and said, hold on, change of heart.
Correct. Their attorney did.
Their attorney. The attorney for Child Protective Services. Child Protective Services that was doing everything to take your children away suddenly had a change of heart and said, we have nothing against these parents.
Correct.
Because it was a losing battle, because the judge, things became very transparent to this judge, and it was an honest judge, obviously.
Definitely.
Okay. So at that point, then, you got on a plane and you came to see Dad. Kids miss Dad,
Correct.
Mom misses Dad, and you're ready to continue with life.
Correct.
But you couldn't continue with life because you had yet another governmental interference.
That's very true.
Yeah. So you flew into where? Houston, Texas?
Yes, Houston, Texas.
Okay. And when did you fly in?
April 1st, 2015.
April 1st. Did your husband pick you up from the airport? Did he greet you?
Yes, he did.
Must have been a happy reunion.
Definitely.
Dad's got his children. He's got his wife, his lovely wife, and the family's going to go home now. Was it your intention to set up residency in Houston?
Yes, we resided in Houston prior to traveling abroad, so we were just coming back home.
Okay. And How long after you came home, you've got jet lag because that's a long flight from England,
Mhm. Yes.
and kids are getting nestled in,
Correct.
a couple of days, I don't know, a week. You heard
Exactly.
you heard a knock. You heard one of those knocks that just wasn't that kind knock from a neighbor with a plate of cookies.
Correct.
Tell us about that.
It was on April 8, 2015. We got a knock on the door, and it was a CPS caseworker.
Had
And she
you
wanted
did you
to-
have a fight with a neighbor? Did you anger somebody where they decided to pick up the phone just like the doctor in England?
Nope.
Well, how did they come to know where you lived or who you were or what were they doing there?
Apparently, the CPS in England had contacted them, they said.
The CPS in another country contacted the U.S. social workers for what?
Correct.
They had dismissed everything.
They didn't tell them that.
They didn't. So they being the England vultures, I'm sorry, CPS workers, didn't tell Houston CPS workers. What did they tell them?
They conveniently left out the part that they withdrew the case. All the false allegations that they presented to the court was what they gave the CPS office. So this CPS office actually thought they had something.
Okay. When the CPS worker came to your door on April 8th, only 7 days after you had flown in to continue life, what did they do at that time?
The CPS caseworker said the kids looked really good, everything looked fine, but she wanted us to take all the kids downtown to a hospital so that one of them could do an MRI, but she wanted all of them to go to that hospital.
So they were continuing with this MRI.
Correct.
With a 14-month-old, 15-month-old baby, toddler.
Correct.
Could your son walk?
No, at the time he commando crawled.
Okay. Did he say any words, mama, dada, whatever? I mean, I don't know what your culture, if it's different, that's kind of the American way. Was he speaking at all? Was he communicative?
He would occasionally say a word or two
Okay.
at that time.
All right. Let me ask you this. Did any social workers, when he was first born, have any time alone with him? Because they might have
Never.
scared him so much that he didn't want to talk and didn't want to walk and didn't want to do anything in hopes that mom and dad would carry him and hold him tight so that he would never be taken away. I'm just... Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I need a little humor tonight. Okay. Did you go downtown? Did you follow the directives of the social worker?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And was it that day what time did the social worker come?
Well, she made us follow her in our car.
Okay.
She made us come ride immediately with her. She made me and the baby ride with her and made Daddy pick up the girls in his car to follow and immediately go with her to the hospital.
Huh. To the hospital?
Correct.
Like an emergency room type of hospital, a private hospital?
Yes.
Okay.
It was a public hospital, Memorial Hermann downtown,
Okay.
and she took us to the ER.
Okay. And were the physicians prepared when you got there? Did it seem like they already knew that you may very well be coming?
Yes, I believe they contacted them to tell them we were CPS cases coming in.
Okay. How were you treated?
Very weirdly, because we didn't know at the time that we were under investigation. we weren't told. So we were a little confused and just was hoping after the test we would get to go and resume our lives.
Okay. It's already strange because you've already gone to court. The judge said this is nonsense. It's ludicrous. Don't bring this nonsense into a courtroom. These parents are fine. She was ready to say dismissed, and they then said dismissed, and everything was done. But they lied. They lied. Another country, folks. I don't even know if that's legal. I actually have to look. I need to look up.
No, it's not.
It's not. Have you looked it up?
I have looked it up. It's not. And the State Department, the American Embassy in England that was really supportive, told CPS over here that information themselves.
Told them the information. What information? The lying information, or the information that
they cannot utilize an accusation from another country to hold us in the U.S.
I've never heard of such a thing, and I've heard of a lot of bizarre cases, but this is quite unique because, folks, we have other countries now intermingling with. CPS is becoming a worldwide connected powerhouse, and that is scary. That's really scary for every parent. Folks, you really need to be afraid because, when I was talking to Kathy, I told her people really don't understand until it happens to them. But every parent that is walking in any country, almost any country, you have an invisible number. If it hasn't been called yet, don't think that it can't be at any given time because you've already been given a number. And when that number comes up, like yours did, Kathy and Ahmed, it's a real nightmare. Did your son have the MRI?
He had the MRI, he had EEG, and several other neurological blood work, but nothing showed to be wrong with him.
So they placed your son in the United States, in Houston, for no reason. There was no injury to a 14-month-old child. But the ER worker, having communicated and possibly having been given directives from CPS, went forward against the best medical decision, quite frankly, and gave this child what could have cost him his life. You were already aware of that.
Correct.
Did they put him under anesthesia? Did they put him to sleep before they did this?
Yes, they did, and they held us in the hospital indefinitely. Wouldn't let us return home, even after it was discovered to not have any reason to be delayed.
Okay, so wait a minute. You're in the hospital. They do all of these tests. Did they allow you to stay with your boy while they were performing these tests?
Yes.
Excuse me. Okay. And how long do you think, approximately, were you in the hospital during the testing process?
It took place over a period of 7 days. There were several tests that were conducted.
How many days?
7.
7 days? Okay, so wait a minute.
Ma'am.
Did I hear you right? Because these headphones might be not working well. Did I hear you right when you just said you had to stay in the hospital the 7 days?
7 days, and he stayed 3 months after that 7 days, but we were with him for 7 days.
When you say that they held you there, did you ever try to leave? Maybe one of you take turns, go home, sleep, shower, change, something?
We did try to leave when all the tests came out negative, and CPS said, no, we couldn't.
You couldn't leave the hospital?
Yes.
Folks, slavery is very much alive. Wake up, America. This is not the land of the free anymore. We're hearing it. And it only gets worse. Kathy, I want to jump into some real serious things that the audience, we haven't even touched. Your son was in the hospital for 3 months. You didn't have
Correct.
you didn't have abuse allegations against you, did you?
None.
None. They just wanted to use your son as a guinea pig to perform tests in which perhaps they needed one more person in order to complete the research. I don't know. But there was no legitimate reason to place your son's life in danger, potentially death. And yet they did, and you had no control, and as a matter of fact, you couldn't even leave.
Correct.
3 months. What did you do during the 3 months? And where were your other children? And what did CPS do? What happened?
Well, they released the girls home, and so my husband and I took turns. At first, they wouldn't let us see the child and told us we had to fire our attorney in order to see the child.
Okay, wait a minute. So I know what you're talking about, but that sounds like it's coming from left field to those who don't know your story. You had an attorney. You hired a private attorney, or you went with a court-appointed attorney?
A private attorney.
You hired a private attorney because CPS was involved in your lives, and you had a court date that you had to go to, that they told you that you'll have to be in court, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you went and sought out an attorney to represent you and your family's best interests.
Correct.
Can you tell us the name of the attorney?
Julie Caterman.
I'm sorry, Julie Caterman?
Caterman.
Okay.
Correct.
And she's in Texas?
Yes, she is.
Okay. You know, the name is quite familiar. Yeah, Julie is somebody that we've heard about quite often. She actually has a show, very much like I do, where she's vocalizing what she sees and what parents are experiencing and what's happening within the system, and how families are being affected, more or less. Was she a good attorney?
Very much so.
Were you happy?
Yes, we were.
Who told you? Did you go to court and were you standing before the judge with Julie on your side, and the judge said, hey, either Julie leaves or we're going to hold you hostage again? Or who told you? Fire Julie.
The CPS supervisor.
The supervisor. Okay, so the CPS supervisor called you?
No, we asked to see the child because I was breastfeeding him and hurting. And he said, unless you fire your attorney, you cannot see the child.
How long had it been from the time that you had that conversation with him that you saw the child?
A week.
You hadn't breastfed your son, who was used to breast milk, for a whole week? He was denied
Correct.
his mother's breast milk.
Correct. CPS actually told me not to breastfeed him because they have a different plan for him.
They have a different plan for your child.
Correct.
Okay. Did you know that we have federal laws that prevent government from interfering with the civil liberties of a parent to be able to parent their child as long as they're not hurting them? Breastfeeding doesn't hurt children unless you're doing drugs, which you're not. And weren't.
Jamie, even much worse. They were ready to tube feed him. They were gonna tube feed him because he wasn't eating the hospital food. He eats an African diet when he's not breastfeeding, and CPS would not allow us to feed him an African diet either.
They were ready to put tubes in this baby?
Correct.
I'm so sorry. I'm
Thank
so
you.
sorry for this poor baby first, and then for you folks, and for your family, and for every individual who is a parent. I am sorry, because you're in trouble. You're in danger, and your children are in danger. Did your child lose weight?
Yes, very much so.
15 months old by this time, right? Or am I?
Yes.
Okay. And your child is losing weight, even though before CPS got involved, your child was gaining weight regularly, very healthy, not malnutrition. But now, this poor baby has this foreign food, and folks, let's face it, American food is filled with glyphosates and GMO and all of this nonsense. And this baby, who had some real good stuff, tasted it and didn't like it and rejected it and didn't have a choice, because really it was either you eat the garbage or we'll open you up and stick a tube in you.
True.
Kathy, did your
Yes,
child
ma'am.
come back from the hospital? Did your child... Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back. You were told, fire your attorney or you don't get to breastfeed.
No, fire your attorney or you don't see the child. I wasn't allowed to breastfeed, period. Even after I saw him, they told me straight up, do not breastfeed him. We have different plans for him.
Okay. Fire your attorney or you're not seeing your child. What did you do? What did you do? And what could a parent do in that case? What did you do?
I fired the attorney.
Why?
Because I wanted to see my child again.
And that was the only ultimatum that you were given.
Correct.
This is so sad. It really is. You know, it's so sad. Now you don't have an attorney. Did they allow you to hire another attorney, Kathy?
They offered us a court-appointed attorney, and we turned that down and hired another private attorney.
Okay. So Julie, who advocates and represents parents in Texas very zealously and understands the system and is very vocal to the point of having a show, was now, or you, I should say, were gagged from maintaining representation that you chose.
Correct.
Your second attorney, that means that now you're giving another retainer and you're going through the process again, and you're hoping that this new attorney understands everything that Julie understood, which it always takes time for any attorney, and respectfully I say this on their behalf, to kind of get up to speed on the case. Then to meet the players in the case and to meet the parents and to get a feel. I mean, that takes time. How was your second attorney?
He was great. He took all the evidence and all the witnesses.
Okay.
And at the first case, the judge said CPS didn't prove their case, but still we let them keep it.
Okay. And were your children living with you, or were all of your children gone?
At that time, it was just the boy.
What was the reason that they gave you?
They didn't give us any reason. They just kept him. At first, they said they wanted to do some genetics testing on him, even though he'd had to already. And then it was like they were telling the hospital to release him to foster care, even though all they asked for was 30 days. But they would never give us any valid reason for their action.
Have they ever given you any paperwork that said, we are making this allegation
at the court, they did say they were accusing us of medical neglect because we didn't do the MRI in England.
Because you didn't perform an action in England that a court, by the way, an English court agreed with this procedure not being performed on this child and admonished, as a matter of fact, Child Protective Services for wasting the court's precious time, and the U.S. went with the lie.
Correct.
How does that make you feel about America? About the system? About justice?
It's scary.
It's scary, to say the least. It's frightening. I mean, very, very frightening. Do you have your children today, Kathy and Ahmed?
No.
Your case began when you got that bang on the door, April 8th. We're now almost December 8th. Your son was taken. They wanted to do testing and use him as a guinea pig. That's what I think. But they left the other two children, so they didn't really consider you a danger. They just needed a child with your boy's color, weight, height, hair texture, and your number got called.
That's right.
You weren't a danger. If you were a danger, if they thought it for a moment, then they made a grave error in leaving two children within you and your husband's care. So clearly they didn't think that you were a danger. They just wanted...
And they did let him come home for 2 months as well. So all the kids were home for 2 months, and then they came and took all the other two as well. And now they have all 3 kids.
The kids are home for 2 months. During the 2 months, did they come to your house to visit you?
Yes.
26 times.
How many times?
Sometime at 12. 26 times. Sometimes at 12 a.m. in the morning.
Wait a minute. In a 60-day period, okay, what months were these?
This was the month of July, and he came home on July 29th, and by September we counted 26 visits in total.
Okay, so July we have 31 days.
Actually, it will be August because it was July 29th that he came home. So It'll be August and
going into September. Okay. 26 times. They came at midnight.
Correct.
Now I said they came. Was it just one worker? Was it colleagues within a certain department, or was it just any social worker who happened to be out in the field?
They took turns. There was CASA. There was the caseworker. There was the court-appointed attorney for the kids. Okay. It was just a constant show up, mostly unannounced. And they took,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end of that.
Well, it was mostly unannounced. It was really traumatic because we couldn't really survive as a family.
Of course.
Really,
you're on pins and needles. You don't know what they're going to do. You don't know what lies are going to come. You want to be at your Sunday best.
Right.
How were your children reacting to all of this chaos?
It was really traumatic because we could see the confusion when we had the strangers come into the house, and it was really, we could sense them kind of, and then it was it wasn't a nice experience for the
Of
child.
course. You can't relax. If you feel tension, that energy is real. Your children are going to feel it. Something isn't right. The balance is off. 26 times. When they came to your home, what did they say?
They would want to look around. They would want to ask questions about who was visiting us. They wanted to do a background check on every visitor. They wanted to make sure we weren't speaking to the media.
Why?
They wanted to know what
Why?
reasons.
They wanted to make sure that
They
you weren't speaking to the media?
correct. They made a sign we weren't going to talk to the media. They wanted to know what he ate, what he drank, every step of every minute. And that information was passed on to his new foster parent. So all the while, even though he was home, the plan was for him to go to foster parent because every information they garnished from us was what they used to provide for his current goal or plan.
Do you know the foster parent?
No.
No.
Yes.
Kathy, during the 2 months, did they ever make any allegations that there was a safety risk that you or your husband posed against the children that caused them to again remove your son from his loving parents?
We actually have a document from them in writing that states that he was doing perfectly. The CPS doctor said it was faring well. We have it all documented. CPS agreed he was doing fantastic at home, actually.
He gained weight again because he had lost some weight.
He gained weight and he made a lot of progress with his developmental milestones.
Excellent. So possibly, I'm a real stickler. My little one, when my little one was young, never crawled. Actually, it was just like an arm. It was like a camouflage, preparing for battle. Never crawled. Went right from kind of rolling to walking. Listen, everybody does it different, but they need a chance. At 14, 15 months, that's not a fair chance. Some people are a little slower. Some people, would rather stop and listen to the silence than be screaming in, the chaos. Doesn't make them right or wrong. It's just a preference. Your son had a preference to not do something until later.
True.
He had all this testing. He's not developmentally delayed. Is that right?
Well, he is, but there is no reason. The doctor's diagnosis said unspecified. They could not find a reason for his developmental delay.
Why were they looking for a reason? I mean, we've got so many children that have autism and spectrum and ADD and all of these different, Down syndrome and all of these different diseases, disorders, delays, whatever the label is. Why not just address it, find the best way to address it, and move on? Why the need? Do you know?
Well, I guess in the long run it was, like they couldn't find a reason that they thought they would get, so they're just still held in them anyways, because that's always been the goal. It doesn't matter that there's no reason for his delay; they're just still holding him.
Okay. Your son, through the course of this time, how old is your son right now?
He's 2.
He's 2 years old now.
Yes.
Does he call you mom?
Yeah, he calls mama.
He calls
He
you
calls
mama.
mommy.
Mommy.
He calls
Okay.
me mommy. Yeah.
Okay. So he still does know that you're his mother. They haven't been able to rid him of that.
Well, we haven't seen him in a whole month. We don't know how he is right now, but before he left home, he called me mommy.
Did he laugh a lot?
Yes.
He's a happy baby. He's a happy little
The
guy.
happy, definitely.
When he was taken from you, did you see a behavioral change, a sadness, a different look in his eye when he first came home? Either one of you.
Oh, yeah.
Ahmed, I would like your input as well as a father viewing this.
Yes. His countenance changed, you know, when they brought him back initially in July.
Okay.
You know, yes. So when he started seeing his other siblings, he started changing. He became a happy kid. Even in October, when one of the CPS, one of the lawyers came, he saw him at home. He was very happy. He said he has really improved. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So it took a little while. So when they took him, he's in your care. He's happy. Life is wonderful, and he's safe and secure. They take him.
Yes.
You don't know what happens, but when he returns, he's not that confident child. But then he starts to remember, this is my home. I know this, and becomes confident. And then they come back in and take him again and put this child through the trauma of having this severe potential attachment disorder because they're taking a young child away from the bond of the parents.
Correct.
Yeah.
Definitely is going to be very, very traumatic for him.
Of course. You folks, July, August, September. Let's fast forward. You're going through all of these changes. You're going to court. Your house you might as well leave your door open because they're barging in at all hours of the night, midnight, AM hours, unannounced, 26 times in 2 months.
Correct.
Somebody in your family got very ill, unfortunately. Is that right?
That's right. That's my mom.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
When did that happen?
She has a history of high blood pressure. She's had partial stroke before, but with all these new developments that CPS is in our life, she's heard everything. So right now, she's on a sick bed. So her last wish is to see her grandchildren.
Does it seem like your mom is going to survive?
No, because she's on a sick bed, and she's on a deathbed. You and I, we know the answer to that.
Yes. Yes. Unfortunately. I'm so sorry.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm experiencing the same thing, so my heart goes out to you, truly.
Thank you.
You needed to see your mom. That's your mom.
Yes. Very, very important.
Of course. Rightfully so. You're a citizen in Nigeria, both of you. You both have
yes.
a dual citizenship. Okay. So
and the children as well. And the children.
And the children as well.
Yes.
Okay. You got special permission, special visa, showing the evidence of your mother's dire health condition and the time limitations in which you and your family would be able to communicate with your mom God forbid, before something happened, right?
Correct.
So the government gave you permission. Go see your mom, of course.
Correct.
You and the children and your wife.
Yes.
When was this?
That was in November 6th.
So you bought the tickets. You got your permission prior to that. On November 6th, your plane was scheduled to take off and take you folks to your mom. Is that correct?
To Nigeria, yes.
Okay.
Correct. That was November the 7th.
November 7th. Okay.
Yes.
You went to the airport. What airport did you go to?
We went to the Dallas airport.
Okay. Dallas Airport. Dallas has flights that take you where you need to go. Big airport. And did you check luggage in?
We did.
Okay. Did you go through security?
Yes, we went through security.
Okay. And you're on your way, and then you're making sure the kids are nice and comfortable for a long plane ride, and they've got some drinks and so forth and so on. And what happened?
And when we got to the when we were about to board the plane, we were stopped by the customs.
The what?
The customs stopped us.
Okay, so the customs agents stopped you.
Yes.
You're already at the gate. You can.
We're already at the gate.
Okay.
We're already at the gate. They were there with two CPS officers.
Two CPS officers?
Yes, they were there with the custom. The CPS instructed them to arrest us.
CPS doesn't really have officers. CPS social workers.
Yes, CPS social
That's
workers.
okay. That's okay. They'd like to be officers, but we won't give them that. Amen. And the social workers went to the airport?
They were there at the airport.
Okay, wait a minute. Something's boggling my mind right now. It just hit me. You were flying out of Dallas, right?
Correct.
Wasn't your case in Houston, or did it change venue?
No.
It was in Houston.
It's in Houston.
Wait a minute. So the workers, did you recognize those social workers?
No.
Were they social workers from Dallas or social workers from Houston?
They're from Houston.
No, they were from Dallas. The social workers were from Dallas. CPS had flagged the children's names with the airport authorities.
Okay.
So they were contacted as soon as we tried to check in. And so the local CPS in Dallas came down based on the instruction of the CPS here in Houston.
And what was the instruction?
To arrest us for international kidnapping.
Kidnapping your children?
Exactly why the airport authorities refused to comply with their demand.
Okay, wait a minute. So CPS social workers went with their muscles showing, and the customs workers said they have a legal visa. This man's mother is dying. This family is credible. They're educated. And they're going to see paternal grandmother, his mother. We're not getting involved in this. This is nonsense.
Correct.
So you got on the plane, right?
Well, CPS didn't let us.
CPS didn't let you, but Customs didn't arrest you. So, but CPS stayed in the airport.
Yes, and this was a federal jurisdiction where we were.
Absolutely.
But CPS wouldn't let us go. They called the airport police and told them to do the same, and they didn't agree, so they got the Texas Ranger.
Wait a minute. When the customs agents would not be involved, they then called the airport police?
Correct.
The airport police, did you see them? Did they speak with you?
Well, they spoke with the federal authorities, and who told them they weren't going to press charges. They were going to let us go, and so they said, well, we're not getting involved either because they don't see any reason why they should.
They were told, listen, this is nonsense. Let these little agencies do this. We have real business to tend to. And
Correct.
they weren't being involved in this. But the CPS social workers, they won't accept not getting their way. They're like a tantrumed, adult child who's got a bad case of ADHD and just absolutely refuses and will do anything and everything to make sure that whatever directives that they want accomplished, that they actually get them accomplished. They called the marshals.
Correct.
The marshals came into the airport, or were the marshals already at the airport? Are they stationed?
They called them to come.
Are there marshals stationed at the Dallas airport?
No, CPS called them from their local station to come into the airport.
I'm wondering if that's even legal, because I know that there's jurisdiction where different law enforcement agents have jurisdiction, and another agent outside of FBI, of course, cannot overstep those boundaries. Otherwise, we just have marshals everywhere, or local police, or airport, security or agents. We have these different law enforcement agents for a reason. But the marshals, they just marched in. Did it seem like the marshals were friends with the CPS workers? Did it seem like they knew each other, they were comfortable with one another, or none of the above?
None of the above. They'd invited the marshal inside a private room. And when he came out, he said he was just going to arrest us so CPS could take all the kids.
The marshals went in a private room with CPS workers?
Correct.
For how long?
For about 20 minutes.
Where were you and the children during this time, and Ahmed?
We were in a room, and one of the CPS workers kept distracting the children away from us in the corridor of where we were.
Okay. So you didn't have your children in your arms?
No, she wouldn't. She kept calling them to herself.
Did the marshals ever ask you for any paperwork?
Nope.
They never asked you to see any legal documents like the other entities had?
No, they didn't.
What did they? They just said,
We're holding you for CPS. Was what his words. I'm arresting you and holding you for CPS.
Last I knew, folks, law enforcement didn't work for CPS. Maybe the rules are changing. Maybe in Dallas. Maybe Dallas is the forerunner in law enforcement. Marshals, nonetheless, working for social workers, many of whom only have a high school education. Did they take your children?
Yes, they did.
Did your children cry?
Yes, they were crying.
Mommy, Daddy, Mommy, I want my mommy.
Correct.
I've seen that sight all too often. Were you put in jail?
Yes.
Yes.
You both were put in jail?
Yes, we were both put in jail.
For how long?
Actually, we bonded out the next day.
How much of a bond?
$10,000 on each one of us.
What were the charges? Kidnapping.
Interfering with child custody.
Who had custody of your children?
CPS took them.
But before that, how can you interfere with custody? They were in your care and custody, weren't they?
Well, no, they were. The boy was at home, but CPS still had legal custody, so he was home physically, but CPS was still maintaining his custody because they never, that was it. But they never had custody of the other two. But what they presented to the marshal that they had custody of all three children.
Okay. This was November 7th. You were locked up for one day. You had to come up with yet more money. Money for the first attorney, money for the second attorney when they made you fire the first one just because she was maybe too tough for them, knew too much. And now you've got to come up with a bond to be released from jail.
Correct.
And when you came out of jail, where were your children?
I sent a text to the CPS caseworker that where are my children, that I need to come take my children. She said at that point that they don't have any plans of returning the children to us.
Okay, the CPS worker. How many workers, how many social workers are on your case?
One.
One social worker. How many supervisors?
Two supervisors.
Two supervisors?
And one caseworker.
And one caseworker.
Correct.
In your case, were any supervisors or social workers who seemed to be decent or seemed to be withdrawn, not really involved, were any social workers ever removed from your case? Or
a supervisor was removed, and she was very reserved. When the only time we met with her, she was extremely reserved, and after a few weeks ago, after they took the girls, we learned she's no longer with the agency.
She's no longer with the agency, folks. It's really important if you have a CPS case, you must watch the social workers. Don't call them out on the carpet in the boxing ring. If a social worker gets pulled off of your case, be concerned. It happens all the time. We've been told by whistleblowers that is when the social worker looks at the case, especially a supervisor who becomes accountable, looks at the case and says, whoa, wait a minute, I'm not going to participate in this. What's going on? And seems like that may have happened in your case.
Possible.
Yeah, everything and anything is possible. Okay. You haven't seen your children. What's going on now? You've received national attention. Fox News.
Yes.
Fox contacted you. You've been told.
Correct.
Okay. You know, it's always incredulous to me that we live in a country where freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to be able to make a choice, but not freedom to commit crimes, not freedom to steal, those are crimes, not freedom to kidnap, that's a crime, but you weren't the kidnappers even though you had to put up the bond. We have a governmental agency called Child Protective Services who seems to be kidnapping, almost as much as children are being born.
Correct. That's true. That's what is going on.
right here, right now. You know, I had a private conversation with you, Kathy, and you said, I don't want to fight with these people. I don't know how it got this far. I want to be a mother. That's why I had children.
Correct.
You want to put this behind you. Is that
That's
right?
That's correct.
Okay. Who is the judge in this case?
It's George.
Cause
It's George John Phillips.
I'm sorry, Judge what?
John Phillips.
John Phillips. Judge
Correct.
John Phillips. Okay. Okay. Is he listening to you? Do you speak in court?
Yes.
Does he listen?
We hope so.
You hope so. I hope so too. Would it be okay? When is your next court hearing?
The 10th of December, 2015.
Have they given you any reason why, when you speak to the social workers and you ask them, can we see our children? Our children must be suffering and afraid, not seeing us. I mean,
yeah, we've communicated via email several times. There has been no response.
no response.
Yes.
Wait a minute, are you saying that you're calling and you're emailing and nobody's getting back to you?
Yes, they say, well, the caseworker is on vacation. She'll let us know when she comes back from vacation. Well, she comes back, she doesn't contact us. So it's been a month now. We have not seen our children, and we're extremely worried, hoping they're safe. And it's quite traumatic, and we can imagine because we now understand they've been separated into different foster homes. So they're not even together to comfort each other. So
The
we
twins are not
traumatized.
together?
The twins have been separated. From the day they took them, they never placed them in the same foster home.
Oh, honey. Oh, my gosh. I want to help. National Safe Child wants to help this case. I don't know what went wrong. I know that this is wrong. This is wrong.
Thank you.
And these children are suffering. We would like to have anybody in Texas, Houston, Texas. What children's courthouse is it?
It's the Juvenile Court, 1200 Congress. It's a 314th court on the 5th floor.
Okay. We would like to invite some advocates, some proactive, vocal, caring people, not to have a protest, but to put out a hand, to give a shoulder, and to show CPS that these folks have had enough. They've done nothing. The children have been used as guinea pigs. They've been arrested. And you were threatened to be arrested twice, right?
Yes.
Are you scared that you're going to be thrown in jail again, maybe?
Yes.
Are you scared of the CPS workers?
Yes.
Are you scared, Kathy and Ahmed, that you might never see your children again?
Yes.
For everybody that's listening right now, you are holding an invisible number. If you are a parent, do not think that these folks have done something that is not being disclosed during this program. They have been scrutinized by several different media platforms. There have been articles written about them and this situation. They have had law enforcement look them straight in the eyes and say, and look at the CPS workers and say, we will not participate in this nonsense, this activity, because we stand for something. These folks have had their children removed for no reason. Kathy's working on her second PhD. This is a married couple. You're not collecting welfare. You're not out shooting up drugs. You're providing a safe home. You've complied with everything. Have they given you a plan that they told you you have to do this and this and this?
Correct, and we've completed everything.
Everything that they said. Have you ever had a psychological evaluation?
2. We had 2 psychological evaluations.
You had 2. Why 2?
Yes, ma'am. Because they kept saying, we did the first one with an independent psychologist, and they weren't happy with it. So we did a second one with a CPS approved psychologist. And we also did parenting classes. We provided proof of a secured income, a secured home for the children, and none of it has made them stop so far.
Okay. December 10th. It's right around the corner. I plan on communicating with you. Who is your attorney right now?
Julie Caterman.
Julie Caterman is your attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
Good for you. Julie, we hope that I'm certainly going to send you this show this evening or tomorrow. We stand behind you and support you, and we have lots of people in Texas that would be a support as well, and we need to reach out to them very quickly because time is of the essence. Mr. and Mrs. Giwa, America is not what you thought it was, is it?
No.
Do you wish that you would have just stayed in Nigeria, stayed in England, stayed anywhere?
Yes. Definitely.
I'm ashamed on behalf of this country, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it's taken such an ugly, horrific, and failed direction. It does not speak for all of us. We have to conclude this now. I'd like to follow up. I will be speaking with you later this evening or tomorrow, Kathy, if it's okay.
Yes,
Ahmed.
ma'am. Thank you very much.
Ahmed, I know how devastating that this is as a father, as a man, and certainly with your background. You know, when the terrorists come in and they're holding guns to you, it's very hard to really take action.
Yes.
And that's pretty much what they're doing. You just don't see the guns, but they're holding your children captive.
Yes.
I'm so sorry, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Folks, UBN Radio, thank you for allowing this show to air during the radio broadcast. We had a message come in that somebody wanted to donate something to UBN for allowing this show to air, and we're very grateful to that person, although they've asked to remain anonymous. We need to stop it, folks. It's going to be your child. We must stop it. Not with fighting, not with guns, not with violence, with brains, with our intellect, with unity, with perseverance, and with saying, we will not accept this criminal activity from the very government that we have appointed anymore. Finished. Folks, thank you for joining me. The show is dedicated to my father, Ronaldo Ramos, a beautiful man who I love very much, who I will one day meet again. And I my prayers, Ahmed, are with your mom as well. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, we'll see you folks, our loyal listeners and beyond. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next
Thank
week.
you.
Sunday,
And
7
thank you for
p.m.
the talk.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
God bless. Take care, folks. See you next week, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, UBN Radio, the National Safe Child Show. Good night.
Thank you for listening to the National Safe Child Show on UBN Radio. For past episodes, visit the archives on ubnradio.com, and for more information, go to nationalsafechildcoalition.com. The views and opinions expressed in these radio programs are those of the individual hosts and do not reflect the official policy or position of Universal Broadcasting Network.